Should you buy a digital business or a traditional business? Now, when people think about buying a business, they usually think about buying something that's a little bit more traditional, brick and mortar maybe. Not a lot of people talk about digital businesses, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today. Let's get right into it. When you think about digital, it would usually be e-commerce, agencies, SaaS, blogs, communities, whatever it may be. The main point is that it's 100% digital, apart from the physical aspect. So if you're running an e-commerce store, obviously you might be selling a physical product. This is the physical aspect. And when I say digital, I don't mean that you have any physical locations or franchises. Yes, if you scale further, you might want to open a physical location, but this is what we would be focusing on today. Now, on traditional brick and mortar, I don't feel like I need to elaborate more, but retail stores, restaurants, manufacturing, local services, and so on. Let's take a look at the operations. When you run a digital business, essentially you can run it from anywhere in the world. If you live in the US, if you live in Europe, it doesn't matter if you have a business in the US, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, it doesn't really matter. Because it's digital, you're able to run it from anywhere in the world, whether you're on vacation, whether you're traveling, or you're just staying at home. One of the main bonuses of running a digital business is actually being able to hire anyone from anywhere in the world. With that being said, I would highly recommend hiring contractors from Argentina, for example, where their currency might be low, but their efficiency is very similar to Europe. Now, another perk is that you can actually scale very, very fast without having any physical location. Let's say you run a store in the US only, and you're selling face creams, for example. You can take the exact same website, translate it into Dutch, for example, translate the ads, and hire a VA from the Netherlands and start running ads there. Now you've opened yourself to an entirely new market. Imagine you scale into more countries like Germany, Scandinavian ones, maybe Australia, UK, for example. You can almost instantly make more money. And the most important thing is that the revenue comes in 24/7. You don't need any in-house employees for this. You can get a sale at midnight, at 1 p.m., 1 a.m. It doesn't really matter. If your ads are always running, if people are always looking for a product or your service, you are still able to make sales. Let's take a look at traditional businesses. You would usually need to be present at the location or hire a manager to be there. And with that comes the W-2 employees, where you're liable for the tax, you're liable for their insurance, and you're working with people in person. It's not really easy to fire them. It's not that easy to find good replacements. And of course, you're limited to one physical location. Can you expand? Yes, 100%, but it's going to take lots of time, lots of effort. Unlike digital businesses where you can scale on the same day, you can open a new landing page for another country. And of course, the revenue depends on the business hours. If your business is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., someone comes in at 9 p.m., you won't be able to make money from them, so they're going to go to your competitors. And now to the most important topic, what's the actual difference between acquiring a traditional business and a digital one? When you're buying a digital business, you would usually buying only the assets. If you think about buying a business, you probably think about liabilities, tax, insurance, all of those stuff. I want to see your tax filing, I want to see your tax returns, and so on. Usually it would just be asset purchases where you're buying the site, you're buying the content, you're buying the customers, you're buying the rights, just a part of the entity. This allows you to actually close those deals in a few days or weeks, unlike traditional businesses where it can take you 2 to 6 months to close a business. And it would usually only take a day to transfer all of the assets. It's just an asset purchase agreement. Now let's say you buy a Shopify store, for example, that's an e-commerce store. The only thing you need to do is change your billing, change your store information, and change your payment provider, where you would be able to plug your LLC, LTD, depends wherever you are in the world. And there is very, very low legal complexity as well. One of the cons is when you think about buying a business, you probably think about getting loans, getting credit, SBA loans, whatever it may be. Most of the time, you won't be able to get loans against this because you're buying the assets again. You're not buying an entity. So when the bank or the lender would ask for tax returns, tax filing, you won't have anything to show them. And one of the other perks is having fast due diligence. You can probably get everything done within a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks even, and circle back into actually closing the deal. For traditional businesses, you might actually be buying the entity, and this can take you 2 to 6 months to close the deal as well. And it would usually involve lawyers, accountants, site visits, and so on, and a very, very complex due diligence. With that being said, you would also be legally tied to a state. You inherit all of the liabilities, all of the assets. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad. But if someone filed a lawsuit and you find about it a year, 2 years later, everything can go down the drain. And one of the pros is you can actually get SBA loans, credit lines, and so on, and it can put you in a position where you don't need to risk a lot of money. Now let's take a look at how those businesses are priced and what are the risks involved. I know this can look too good to be true, but digital businesses are priced sometimes at 0.3x annual net profit. Yes, this is crazy. Some people are making their money back within 3 months, and there's actually lots of risk involved in this as well. It can give you an insane arbitrage where you can buy low, sell high, or buy a store that's failing completely and running back up to later then sell for a higher price. Lots of these sellers are actually young people just like me, and they might be undervaluing their business. For them, it's better to get 100K rather than run their business for 12 more months where they can make 150K, for example. You're buying the assets, as I explained before, but you would usually need to use your own money to finance those deals as well. One of the best things is you can actually merge it into another digital business or another physical business you currently own as well. You can take the customers, you can take the social media pages and start promoting your other brand or merge them together on Shopify. Let's talk about the risk, because there are risks in any business that you want to buy. You want to take a look at where the traffic is coming from. If it's only coming from one channel like organic, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, whatever it may be, you're highly dependent on this. So if you were to buy a business like this, I would highly suggest you expand into other marketing channels as well. If you're using copyrighted content for your ads, which lots of people do, you can actually get your website shut down, your ad account shut down, and this is definitely not a spot where you want to be. Another risk is where those people might actually rush into selling, and it's only a one-man show, and one man can actually have their entire business, especially if it's digital, only in their mind. You want to make sure you receive proper SOPs where you know how to run the ads, how to take care of the supply chain, how to take care of customer support, and you can actually delegate those tasks later on as well. Another thing, this can be super high risk for someone who doesn't have any experience in the digital world, specifically e-commerce, agencies, whatever business that you are buying. If you come from an entirely different industry, you would at least want to have some high-level information about how the business operates, what are your competitors doing, and so on, and make sure you hire the right talent. So media buyers, customer support, creative content, and so on. Now let's take a look at traditional businesses. Those would usually be priced a lot higher than digital ones. The main reason for this is you won't be seeing businesses sold under 12 months old, unlike digital ones. And they would usually be tied to a piece of real estate as well, whether they rent the place or they own it. And going back to the loans, most of the buyers won't use their own cash in those deals as well. But then again, the sellers would expect a higher price due to their stability. Again, you inherit everything if you buy the entire entity, but the deal time takes 2 to 6 months. Where in 2 to 6 months in digital businesses, you can buy 5, 10, or even more. I don't suggest jumping into the water like this, but you should still have at least 1 or 2 acquisitions down the line already. Let's take a look at the risk. You're highly dependent on the staff that's running the business as of right now. If you have an employee that everybody knows and he's quote unquote holding the business, if he leaves or you fire him, you put yourself in a very bad situation as well as the high fixed cost. If you pay rent, this can be 5K, 10K, 20K in some places as well. With that comes the payrolls and the utilities and the inventory, and you can be left with no money at the end of the month. Unlike digital businesses, you also have a geographic risk. If you have a beach club or a restaurant by the sea, for example, you're highly dependent on water. You would have less customers, less visitors in the winter months. And then there is also the holidays. During the holidays, people might still shop online, but at the same time, they would be at home with their families. And you would have to comply with all of the legal laws, health codes, and so on, depending on the state and the country you're operating in. And of course, scaling is very expensive. For you to open another location, it could be anywhere from 6 to 7 figures and even take a year in some cases. I really hope I covered some high-level information for you, so you can decide whether you want to buy a digital business, a traditional business. If you want to see more content about digital acquisitions, specifically e-commerce, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment below on what exactly you want to see. If you feel like this is the right time for you to actually dive into digital acquisitions, you can apply in the link below to work one-on-one with me and my team, but it's not for everyone. It's only for people who want to buy a business this year, buyers who have at least 50K put aside for this, fast and motivated buyers, people who understand this is not an investment opportunity, this is not a piece of real estate. You're actually running a business. Yes, you can delegate lots of the work, but at the end of the day, you need to be involved in the business. And people who are willing to learn new stuff and are open to take a different verdict in business. It's definitely not for people who are just window shopping, they want to see what's out there. You can simply look on Flippa, Acquire, Empire Flippers, and see what kind of businesses there are for sale. People who want to do 100% seller finance deals, I've done those myself, but it's very rare. Slow and unmotivated buyers, and people who think this is a one-time investment. And of course, people who only want to apply their current knowledge to those digital acquisitions where it might not be relevant at all.